everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Anya Grace, and in this video we are talking about how to stay magnetic even when you feel triggered in your relationship. And we're specifically going to dive into anxious and avoidant attachment styles. And this is my beautiful and dear friend Rebecca, who's the founder of Brave Ladies, and she's one of my best friends. And we always laugh because of all of our friends in our friend group, she's our like avoidant attachment style person. So we always ask her questions about what it's really like being more on that avoidant, the patterning of the avoidant attachment style, and really trying to understand it. So I was asking her these questions. We were laughing so hard because it was just really helping me understand what like my boyfriend is going through when he is getting into more of his avoidant style patterns and I'm more of an anxious. So anyway, welcome Rebecca.
Thanks guys.
So if this is your first time to my channel, make sure to subscribe. I want to make sure I'm in the right one. Yeah, I actually am. And we also have her, there's people.
Hello.
Hi, Eveline.
I have to show you, I showed him your face last night.
Oh yeah.
So she was experiencing just a conversation with her boyfriend, and I was like, oh, like I knew exactly like where he was at and what he was thinking, and I was like, oh, that's because he misses you. Yeah, because he misses you, and as an avoidant, right? I know, and I told her that's because he misses you and he wants your love, and she goes, literally like a full body. She couldn't believe that was the case.
It was so funny. So yeah, exactly. We just thought it'd be so fun to like come on here and have you all ask questions to an anxious and an avoidant person. and secure. Yeah, we've been moving into that more. But just what it's like, because sometimes when we understand what's going on in our partner more, it can be easier to stay in compassion and love. And the second, and the title of this video is about how to remain magnetic when you feel triggered. And so we'll talk about what that is toward the end of this video. I'll just preface it a little bit. So to explain more of the story. When I, as a primarily anxious attachment patterned person, sometimes I can experience if my partner isn't as, generous in like the words of affirmation specifically, or kind of like the acts, just the ways that I receive love, I can get triggered sometimes and feel like I'm not being loved at all. And so I'm trying to think of what exactly happened, but I think I was just having this experience of missing. I said I missed, I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember. But basically something happened where I was craving something back, and I wanted some attention, or I wanted some love from my partner, and I wasn't necessarily getting it in the way that I wanted in that moment. And so I was like, Rebecca, Chelsea, and Rebecca was like, oh, I totally get what's happening. He's just basically that what's going on is it's when an avoidant style person is wanting love, what is the strategy that you will often do? So just anxious and avoidant, right? And anxious wants to solve things or lean in and is anxious to get the person's attention when there's any sort of conflict. And then the avoidant, right, is the person who wants to avoid, right? And is wanting to avoid out of, need to protect or all these different things. So for example, if I'm as an avoidant, if I'm actually feeling like upset or like I want more love, or I'm not feeling like I'm getting the attention that I want, or, all these things, I will actually withdraw more. See your face already. Withdraw more as a strategy, right? Because then I know if the person's an anxious, as a strategy, wanting them to come towards me, right? Which we do. Which keeps the dynamic going, right? So she's secretly pissed. She hates it. I'm just joking. So then as an avoidant, so I think like, okay, well, then their energy is going to come towards me even more. And then once I get my cup, but then my cup's slowly filling up, and then when it's filled up, then I'm like, then I can give it back, right? Like, oh, I love you too, I miss you too, and then my energy
goes towards them, right? So I think and mind you, we're speaking from the like, I don't know if the word disempowered, but like it's our wounded, right? When we're in anxious or avoidant, essentially we're operating from our wound. And then there's secure. And the idea is that we're all secure, but matter of fact is we're humans walking on planet Earth and we all have trauma. Like it's just the case, okay? So when so yeah, I think that answers your question, and know that it's if you are with someone who's an avoidant and they're withdrawing, it's really powerful to say like also to be, if you're anxious or avoidant or wherever you're at, to standing in the place of I love you so much and I'm here when you're ready. Like even as avoidant, the disempowered part of me is like, no, come towards me, like chase after me, like, you know what I mean? But the reality is there's so much more available when we're like, okay, we move out of anxious or avoidant into secure and we meet that person there. So yeah, know that as an avoidant, if they're withdrawing or they're not giving you that attention, they're actually underneath all of that, they're wanting it more than anything. And they just get to become available for it and choose and do it.
Which is so amazing, because for me, when I experience that in my partner, where I feel the withdrawal, with the withdraw, I immediately think I'm not loved. Like he's not loving me, you know, and I can take it as a sign that I just make up all these stories, you know, but it's the absolute opposite of what is the experience of the avoidant, which is actually wanting love from you. And so it's very confusing, because it feels like as an anxious, it's like we can constantly be leaning in and we can constantly be giving that love. But what I'm learning is sometimes it's like for the avoidant, and what I understand about avoidant attachment too is every single human being needs intimacy, connection, and closeness. And there's a deep pain in those who struggle with avoidant patterns, because although they want that connection, there is also pain connected to needing closeness and not getting it, for example, as a kid, in the way that they, you know, desired. And so the strategy or the defense is then to create more distance, again, as a strategy to hopefully pull love toward you. And I just think that's really fascinating. And so, like what Rebecca is saying, when we can recognize that, although it can make me crazy, I'm seeing avoidant patterns show up, and I'm like, just be loving, be loving, you know, like I'm here available for love, and I don't feel like I'm getting loved. Is to recognize that it's coming from a trauma response. It's coming from a place of deep vulnerability and desire for love. And it's, and so in that moment, if we are, you know, connected to someone who is more in those patterns, to, just like you're saying, just really, really stay vulnerable. And that's the word that I want to, you know, dose you guys with today, is that energy of vulnerability and choosing to remain raw in your, like, being able to love someone, even if you feel or fear that they don't love you back in that moment, is one of the most beautiful things we could ever give our partner. It's choosing to show up in the way that we, that feels honorable and powerful and beautiful, even if we're not getting something back. And I think when we can stay vulnerable and just keep loving, it, you know, really not need anything back, but just keep loving, because that's our truth. It's, you know, we can support our partner to remember that it is actually safe here. It's safe in this relationship of intimacy and connection to, you know, need each other and to love. So it's amazing too when you said that, and I literally was like,
she was like on all fours like a puppy though. She like launched forward.
It was just like when she said it's a strategy, like when I pull back, it's a strategy to get more love. I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I was like, I always take that as a sign to like basically give space and kind of wait for that person to kind of lean back in. But that's not my nature. My nature is to continue to want to give love. And so it's almost like I gave myself permission to do that. And just in doing that, there's been so much more love with my partner, you know? So anyway, if anyone knows what their tendencies are, would love to hear it. I don't know if the
Will says feminine energy disarms men. Yes, Will. I love that. Oh, and Catherine has a question. I don't want to play those games with an avoidant.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. It's like,
talk about that.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. And Catherine has a question too. When I think it's important to know, and I love what Anya's sharing here about just giving more love, and know that it can only be about playing games when we're choosing for it to be manipulative and we're choosing to get a certain outcome. Versus in relationship, right? You have Bob and you have Sally, right? We're here to learn how to be selfless. Like relationship, there's nothing more than a relationship with another divine being that's going to teach, that's more of an opportunity for us to learn to be selfless and to be truly connected. And so know that it's just an opportunity. And when say your person's being an avoidant or your person's being anxious, it's important that we learn and learn unconditional love in that, and in those moments choosing to see it black and white, like, right, like choosing to be confident and know your love and how valuable your love is. And when they're in their trauma response or they're disconnecting, like witnessing it and observing it versus taking it personally and then going down the spiral. So I share that because it's also such a beautiful opportunity, and then choosing to be loving, like choosing to respond with love, not out of because I need your love back, but out of because I love you. Like I love all of you. And so I hope that, kind of inspires you who feel like, because there's comments right here as well, and people are like, I don't want to play games with, I feel disrespected with an avoidant, and so we could do a whole different video on respect. I mean, but just know that it's always an opportunity to love your person deeply, and I can share that as an avoidant, right, when my partner's feeling anxious and really coming towards me, I just want to share that I can relate to that feeling of, I don't know if disrespect's the right word, but kind of like repelled a little bit. And that's, we can peel that back as well, what it's like being an avoidant.
Can you?
Yeah. And then if you want to, and we see your questions, you guys. Catherine, Marie, Callie, hello, Brianna. Aww. You guys gotta go stalk Anya on YouTube. She's a great YouTube channel. I can just say that knowing her.
Thank you.
And we see, all these questions coming in. Hi, you guys.
So I think Rebecca will go into right now what it's like, because I think a lot of the women, I think a lot of women tend to be more anxious, at least the women that work with me. I would say it's like maybe 20 or 30% avoidant and the rest anxious style. And I think, so it's really, really helpful to understand what's actually going on in the mind and the heart of an avoidant style person, because, and I'm not saying avoidant like that's their definition. I try to use the language. Actually, you've helped me a lot with this. It's an avoidant style. It's avoidant tendencies or anxious tendencies. Like, it's not fixed. It's patterns that we can fall back into, but we're always transforming, into a more whole and pure version of ourselves. So, she's going to explain what is actually going on in the mind of an avoidant, because it's when we learn that, we can, rather than act in defense and fear, and become avoidant ourselves and just be like, okay, well, this isn't the relationship for me because you can't give me my needs met. It's like, wow, what's really going on that's making it so hard to like feel safe here in this love relationship. So
you're me explaining a little bit more about it. Okay. And one thing that you just said that I wanted to share with you guys that was so pivotal or kind of like just one of the, someone says something and it sticks with you forever and you never forget it. So my aunt and uncle were married for like 50 years. My aunt passed away actually, but they were married for 50 years and had a great marriage. And my uncle said that it was because when one person went hot, the other one went cold. And I'm like, that's so beautiful. It's like granting your partner the grace to be an anxious or be an avoidant or be, in their wound, essentially. So versus meeting it with a wound, because then nothing gets solved, right? Until you bring in those conscious tools to talk it out and move through it together, which Anya teaches so much of. So, as an avoidant, I'll say so let's say I'm hello everyone, Fiona, Pinga, hi guys. Hello you guys. When I'm upset, like let's say something makes me like I'm really triggered by something. My first reaction is like, I've got to get that out of here. Like I'm literally plotting a million different ways. I'm like on a plane. I mean, right? I've like figured out a whole new living situation. Like when I'm in, I just get really crafty. And I know now, like, okay, Rebecca, because before I would follow that stuff. Like I literally would follow and make those plans and leave relationships. And like, that was like the reality. Before I realized, okay, this is clearly like a wounded response, or there's fear here that's coming up. So an avoidant is thinking about how do I leave and exit the situation because it's too painful for me to be in. But it's not that the pain's still there, even though we remove ourselves, right? So especially if we're responding to something that we're interpreting that's creating the pain, right? Like a certain pattern. So they're thinking of exiting, right? Or we avoidance are thinking of exiting, when in reality, what we're deeply desiring and wanting is that connection piece, is the, I love you, I'm here for you, let's talk through this, right? Versus the anxious who wants to talk through it right then and there, and they're like trying to like, let's solve this. The avoidance, like, I don't want to, that they're wanting to withdraw, but know that what they're wanting is the grounded, like this stable, I'm here for you to talk about this when you're ready to come back, right? And I think what happens is when one person goes avoidant and the other one goes anxious, they're looking to pry, and the avoidant goes back even further because we can sense you are prying for your certainty, right? Out of your insecurities, or you're feeling unsafe, and I'm feeling that way too. So if I actually give into this, it's going to make me feel worse, right? So does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope I'm explaining it well. Okay, ask questions.
So, what is it like when you feel your partner is prying? Why is that triggering to you? Or needing something and leaning in, why is that triggering for you?
I think when I know that they're doing it, that when they act as if they're doing it to help me, right? When the wording's all about, I want to help you. What's wrong with you? When it's like, that's not the case. What's actually happening is you're uncomfortable with how I'm feeling. So you're looking to create certainty and solve this for you. So there's almost like a disconnect. We can all be really crafty when we're afraid, right? So we can look to kind of say certain things or do certain things to get a certain outcome, but we're also all really intuitive beings, right? So I think for me personally, it's when I can recognize that the reality is they're looking for they're looking for certainty to feel better by themselves or for themselves, versus to actually smooth this. So it's an intention and an energy.
Yeah, it's almost like, and I've kind of come to this humbly in my own life that, and it's not like I'm super, super, super anxious. My partner's super, super avoidant, because I think those kinds of relationships, they just don't really.
You don't even end up together.
Yeah, it's too painful. You can't. You have to kind of, there's like a perfect, harmony.
I wonder if avoidants get together like for a month and then it never lasts because they both avoid each other and everything gets solved.
That's literally what the book says. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and I think being with an anxious attachment would just be so annoying to me, because I'm like, that's what I am. But I don't know. So, but all right, what was I going to say? I do feel like, okay, this is what it was. Humbly, as I've done my own work and taken responsibility in myself, I've seen that actually being in a relationship with someone who has more avoidant has really given me this opportunity to, like, in their patterning, I'm actually asked to purify my presence, meaning to purify myself in that relationship. And rather than, like, it's not my highest self to lean in when I feel insecure and anxious and ask for something from someone outside of myself to give me that security that I need. That's not my highest self. My highest self is to realize, okay, I'm feeling triggered right now. This person in my life does not owe me anything, ultimately. Like, it's my job and my responsibility to self-source and satisfy and stabilize within myself, look for other resources if I need to, to find wholeness inside of myself again. Love that I receive from them isn't something that is owed. It's a benefit. It's an bonus. It's an overflow of what I already have. Mm-hmm. And whereas if we're with someone who is just catering to our anxiety or catering to our avoidant, even, we're with someone who is not with that, who's enabling us to step into. So if we look at it through that lens and are willing to take deep responsibility, then we can recognize that every time I'm having, I feel anxious, it's my partner inviting me into a pure, more powerful version of me. And I want to be that in relationship. I want to love purely and not need from a place of fear. And it's interesting that you say that, because I know in my relationship, one of the triggering phrases that I'll say is, are you okay? Basically, like I'll ask, are you okay? And we're like, yeah, I'll pry into like how he's feeling. Yeah. Because and a lot of times with anxious people, it's like, you're so highly sensitive. It's like the tiniest little shift emotion or energy can just throw someone off. It's like, did I do that? We're also, a lot of us are clearing codependency patterns of feeling responsible for our partner's feelings. But anyway, so with that, I just resonate, because it's like when I say that or ask that, I know my partner is like, don't ask me that, because he's sensing it's not coming from an unconditionally loving place. It's coming from me needing something, and if he's not okay, then I'm going to spiral into anxiety more, and that doesn't feel safe for him. Wow. So I'd love to hear also, like, if you drop to like the deepest level of vulnerability of what it's like, I don't know, like, I know enmeshment is something that a lot of avoidants experienced in childhood even. Yeah, like smothering. And so I don't know if you want to go into that at all from.
Like talking about, there's two things you said. So talking about enmeshment or smothering, or what the vulnerability of being in, maybe.
I guess I connect them because it's kind of like, sometimes we can get so upset at avoidance because like we don't get it, and we feel like they're being cold and harsh and unloving.
Tin woman. Tin man.
Yeah. But I when I learned about like levels of enmeshment, I had so much more compassion. Yeah. So I don't know, anything you want to riff off of, I guess.
Yeah. I think to be totally honest, I haven't studied a whole lot as to why I'm actually an avoidant. I think I focus a lot on like the like familiar questions of what do I want and how can I create this with, and I think I'm still really learning, you guys, how to, because to me it was like leaving. I was like before in relationship, and let me see your guys' questions.
Yeah, we're gonna get to them in a second.
It was like I would literally physically just leave the relationship because I didn't have the tools or the awareness. And now what my next level of that I'm really working on is being present, because my go-to will be to just kind of check out, right? If there's something that's upset, it's like, okay, I'm physically here. I'm like taking a step in the right direction, right? I'm not leaving, like gold star for Rebecca, doing what I preach. But then I can get crafty and kind of disconnect in other ways, and then my partner can feel that. So then that's when we have conversations of like, in relationship of like, hey, I feel like you're somewhere. Where are you? Like, come back. Right. And then it's like being aware of that, and then coming back and coming back and coming back. So that's something that I just wanted to share. If any of you guys are avoidant, or you have partners who are avoidant, and all it is, you guys, is it's a strategy to disconnect to stay safe. And I think the more we can just make it simple and understand that and give ourselves grace to, number one, come back into the present moment, into our bodies, right? Because we like to leave them, right? And giving our partner permission, inviting them into the same as well. There's so much beauty that can be created in that, and I feel like that's also what relationship is really inviting us into. And I think where you were kind of going is where we were talking about the end of our walk today, about how what we want, right? Whether we're avoidant or anxious and we're disconnecting in our own ways, like following our fearful patterns, what we're all desiring is that deep presence and that deep love. and with whether we have it in friendships, right, and or in relationships. So it's like the what I think is really powerful, and what I want to share with you guys, and this may just be for one person listening who really needs to hear this, or all of you, and something I'm continuously working on stepping into, is being totally surrendered to that desire of deep heart presence. And when let's say you feel like you're not experiencing it, right, or that your person's checked out, or they're in a strategy of disconnect, or they're in fight or flight, or they're stressed or whatever, I feel like before I would kind of have a pattern of either avoiding or making it wrong, or then nearing my partner and getting into the doingness, right, and kind of numbing out in certain ways. When there's this next level, and I'm just sharing this to invite you guys into it, as I am on my journey as well, of just being in that vulnerable, like you're talking about, that vulnerable space of, this is what I'm desiring, and I'm sitting here right in this moment, and knowing that it's beautiful and it's okay, and my partner can either meet me here, right, out of our head and into our hearts, and they can meet me here. We can have this magical exchange, and whenever my partner isn't present for that, I can still go experience this in beautiful, wonderful ways, versus following versus mirroring or following the trauma response of being anxious or avoidant. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. If you have questions on that, you guys please ask.
Yeah, beautiful. So, yeah, I'm just checking in. It's like such a fun topic, but it also like brings up emotion in me, because it's such a, so many people struggle. And I think the more I'm realizing about relationship is a lot of it is just learning different languages that we haven't learned before. There's a language for men. There's a language that men speak that I think if women really learned it and spent time being humble and saying, I don't know this language, but I'm willing to actually study it and adopt it and get, really good at it, then we have a better chance at being in powerful communication. And I think that there's a communication for anxious, and there's a language for anxious, and there's a language for avoidance, and if we are really willing to learn it and get humble in ourselves and say, I just don't know this language, but I'm willing to learn, then we have, again, a better chance of loving our partner. And I think the biggest message of the takeaway I think of this is to really, really remember that when you're struggling with being in partnership with someone who is more avoidant, it's just to connect to the deep compassion and empathy of that patterning is coming from fear. The pattern to disconnect is how they feel safe. When I feel fear, my pattern is to lean in and want to connect. But they are equally dealing with the anxiety and the fear. It's anxiety in a different way. It's a different response to it, but we're equal in that, and I know that I've talked about this before, actually, I think on that little video with Aaron, that there's another dynamic that can happen is there's a superior and inferior energy that can show up in relationship, where one person, and maybe you don't experience this, but I think sometimes one person will unconsciously go to a space of superiority as a place to feel safe.
Absolutely.
And one person will go to the place of inferiority because, I don't know, it feels normal or something. And that's something to be aware of too. And like we were talking about this morning, it's completely an illusion. It's impossible for any one person in a relationship to be more valuable. Impossible. And in friendship, impossible. We are literally all equal expressions of the divine. I'm just as this bottle, I'm as this bottle and me and we are equally divine energy. This isn't.
And she has a promo code. I'm joking.
Meaning every single thing is divinity, it's all source energy expressed in this physical form. So nothing is really more valuable or more beautiful or more special than anything else. And it's an illusion. So I think, just in this space, in this talk, think another thing that's coming through is when we stand in our light and our power and compassion and strength, we invite our partner, whether we're avoidant or we're anxious, when we can connect to our higher self and that strength, we are patient and we're willing to love our partner through the moments that they may not be showing up in their higher self.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability instantly becomes strength in those moments. Because, like we're choosing to love. We all want love. But we have in every moment a chance to withdraw from love, even anxious, to withdraw from love, and be like, okay, I'm not getting loved here. I'm not getting what I want here. And so F you, there's something wrong with you. You're so messed up. I don't want to play these games. And act from defense and fear in that way, rather than being like, holy moly, like I feel so much fear right now. Or I feel so much pain and anxiety and past stuff coming up right now. And like, I'm just going to sit in this and actually sit in this experience of life. Like I'm living really powerfully right now by not,
even though it's uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah. And bottom line, when we show up in that energy, no matter who we're with, we invite our partner to their highest potential. And that's what we all want. We don't want to be with someone who doesn't want us at our highest potential. So we want to be with someone who triggers us and sees, where we get to see our own wounds. And ultimately, when you get really good at staying in that elevated, powerful, empowered position, and, there has been that chance for empathy and compassion and patience and all those things, your partner may choose out, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. It's neutral because that doesn't even affect you when you're at that point. I mean, it's sad, but you know that you've truly stepped into your power and you have used this opportunity to, become your best self. So should we answer some questions? Do you have anything
I love that. Anya did that with her cup earlier. We were having to do cup at coffee, and we're like, everything, like literally everything in its essence. It's impossible for anyone to be less than. Like, it's impossible just to validate what you're saying. And I always say, like, people say like, I'm enough, or because people have this deep fear of not being enough. And I always say, like, whenever we think that we're not enough, in that we're focusing on the wrong thing. Because we're focusing on the wrong thing and we're forgetting our divinity. Because the truth is, we all come from the same place, right? We're all stardust. So it's like when you recognize that and you realize the beauty and the presence and the God force and the life force is in every single living thing. You cannot have one thing that's better than the other. And it's beautiful. And just finding the peace and the sovereignty in that is absolutely profound. And Anya grabbed her cup. She's like, like, I am no different. She's holding her cup so serious, her coffee cup. That was so cute.
It's true.
Bree's on.
And Sarah. So sweet.
Hi, Sarah. So we want to answer your guys' questions. Right?
Yeah.
We're at that point,
we
were talking, if you're just hopping on, we were talking all about anxious and avoidant attachment styles and how to. You have a question?
I just want to say, if you are new to Rebecca, she has an amazing Instagram and YouTube. So what's your Instagram handle again?
Rebecca Boatman.
Rebecca Boatman.
I can type it in.
And she has tons and tons and tons of content on relationships. And one of the things I've learned from Rebecca is really, it's like, my words for her are like, we talk about harmony and angelic and love. And I feel like you are so good at coming from love, even when it's so, like, I watch you sometimes go within and like shift the trigger back into love and then like unwaveringly release only love. Like you do that over and over again. You've strengthened that so much. And so I feel like all of her work is coated with that really, really powerful and important feminine energy and feminine essence, really. So, and she also has, I want to just share with them now. Okay.
Yes, honey.
You want to make it?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put a link at the bottom of this video because I didn't actually do that right now, but after it's done, I can do it now too. And okay, that's not it. So, but it's a really, It's an amazing program. It's in my inbox right here. It's an amazing program called Manifest Your Evolved Man, which is, I love that title because it to me, it represents like, and what I stand for in this space and in Elevated Woman is we get to have divine love relationship. We get to have the kind of love that is the highest and the purest and the deepest love. That is what I stand for in this space. And, we are definitely pro man.
Yes.
Right. Oh my gosh, so funny. So it's like the more empowered the masculine is, the more empowered we get to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like that evolved man is really standing for. I actually said once that the evolved man is the equivalent to the elevated woman. Like,
Ooh.
yeah, that it's the masculine version of what we're doing here in the space of empowerment. And so it's like when you get to be with an evolved man and they're willing to really do that work and take responsibility and just see all of it, it's such a powerful experience. So her program, and she's definitely with an involved man, and I love seeing their relationship just unfold so beautifully. So I recommend looking at that. Did you post it?
Yeah, I just put the link. I put the link right there. I love there's a couple different definitions of evolved man. One that I love is a man who is committed to a spiritual path. So he's committed to a spiritual path. He's committed to evolving. He's committed to something bigger than himself. Mm-hmm. And there's so many ways we can go about that, And there, I stand for all women to experience that and to experience love and a conscious partnership. So not just any partnership, but a conscious partnership. And obviously you guys following and being Anya's friends and part of her work, like you're clearly waking up, right? You're clearly, truly ready for that. So that's what we stand for, is for women to experience an evolved partnership. Yeah. And we can answer questions. I can go into more about the course.
Okay. That sounds good. Cool. Yeah. I always say like feminine energy equals spiritual energy equals sexual energy. They're all the same. They're all the same. So when you said he's committed to a spiritual path, it's like it actually, to me, I read that through the lens of he's committed to the feminine and the feminine, which is it's the unseen, subconscious, gentle, warm. It's the energy. It's the unseen energy of this existence. The pulsation, Shakti, vibration of life. And we are all that as men and women, we are embodiments of that divine feminine energy. And the divine masculine gets to witness and experience us, But it was just really sweet to see that, because it's like he's committed to the feminine in that evolved man is. So, all right, let's answer some of these beautiful questions.
People are saying, will you save live video?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
If you guys have any questions, ask away, because now I know you guys had some earlier, which was great, and I don't know who's still on. So thanks, Emil.
If you see a good question, share. I'm going to find some here. It's like there's so many questions, and my brain is like unable to focus on this. Okay, here's one. How do you deal with someone showing up in their trauma? Avoidant wants to run, hide more when faced with another's trauma, in my experience. I mean, from my interpretation and witnessing, it's like, I think what a lot of avoidance experienced is maybe a parent, mother or father figure inappropriately need them.
Relying.
Rely on them. And as a child, it's like you're so innocent and vulnerable, like you can't do anything. So you're stuck in a situation. You're bound in a situation because you don't have any more. You can't leave in that situation. But you're being invaded in a way it's just inappropriate, and it hurts the soul of that child. And so when I look at it from that lens, it's like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. Like that when I need something, my partner can interpret it or run it through the lens of trauma. Gosh, like that must be really hard. Like I get it, And so I think, one thing, I was working with a coach recently, and he was just like, reminding your partner that you're not their mom, or you're not their mom, you're not their dad. It's just like, it's, I think being a safe, patient space to I mean, I'm just exploring this, but
Mhm.
I think it's being a patient and safe space to not take it personally. I think that's the biggest thing, is really not taking it personally and seeing it through the eyes of compassion. And you have anything on this?
Yeah. Deal. So Kelly, thank you for asking that question. That's a really good question. And everyone, your guys' questions are great as well. We're going to get to as many as we can. But when you say how to deal with someone showing up with their trauma, so just from within that question, I'm kind of sensing that there's this possibly this background belief that it's something that you need to manage or contain or control or get rid of, just through the words of deal with. So I would say number one is accepting that how they react and how they respond. May that be running, may that be hiding. I think the number one thing is acceptance, because when you, Kelly, choose to accept that person's response, they're going to actually feel that, and there's going to be another level of trust and safety that's going to be created that will actually have them probably not run or hide as much. But we don't choose to accept because we want them to stop running or hiding, right? Because then that's actually a form of manipulation. We choose to accept because we're committed to loving our partner unconditionally, and then that's when the magic happens. So that's my first thing. So I wouldn't make it as much about your person, but more so about like, okay, how can I be more loving and accepting, and know that the byproduct is it will impact how they show up, and it will impact the intimacy in beautiful ways.
So beautiful. I love what you just said. And it's like anything that's showing up in our partner, if it's an emotional experience or response, it's actually the feminine. And we as women can sometimes reject and suppress and shut down the feminine and continue this suppression of that energy unconsciously. We can do this by basically saying like, what you're feeling is wrong, how you're acting is wrong. And that's us basically doing what we hate receiving.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's rising into that integrated, empowered masculine, empowered feminine energy of nothing is bad. Pain, sadness, fear, rejection are all experiences. They're feelings in the body, they're energies and frequencies that I can experience. All of it is the goddess. All of it is the divine feminine. None of it's wrong. I might prefer feeling fun, good energies and feelings, but none of it's bad. So it's like when your partner is acting in a way, it's being that integrated divine masculine force of basically, I'm here, I'm not leaving. You can do anything, and it's not going to push me away. Like, I'm solid, you're safe. It's very, very powerful. So
whoa. I like Andrea's question too. She said, how do you forgive yourself for being in the masculine role sometimes? Hi, honey. Or is falling into this role normal sometimes, even in a cosmia? What's that say?
Conscious relationship.
Oh, is it? Okay. Conscious relationship. How do we deal with that in a conscious relationship?
Do you want to answer?
Yeah. I was saying, and then we have more about here talking about feminine sexual energy and how to protect it. You should talk on that one. Okay, we're gonna get to your question, Sammy.
How about you answer this one?
Okay. And then, Andrea, how do you forgive yourself for being in the masculine role sometimes? Okay. Well, it's a great question. So number one, actually what we talked about earlier with Kelly is acceptance, because the first step to forgiveness is accepting, full acceptance. Accepting what is, accepting what isn't, right? Accepting what we're imagining, accepting like literally everything, like accepting the reality and accepting even what we have imagined, and just bringing peace and acceptance to all of it, right? So if there's usually a lack of forgiveness, there's something that we're resisting to accept, which is keeping the lack of forgiveness present. So I would literally just do a journal session tonight, and Anya and I are just we're there holding the energy for you to do that. Of like, okay, what do I get to bring full, like, what's everything I get to accept, and write it out. Maybe it's times you even emasculated a man, or chose to just not receive, like, everything, and then making a conscious decision of I choose to forgive and let go, and write everything that you wrote out about what you get to accept. Go through and write it out next to I choose to forgive and let go, and make a conscious choice and an energetic choice as you're doing that, and you will experience lightness and feel it. and then you said, is falling into this role normal sometimes even? Okay, so falling into the role, that's a great question. And even, of course, you know, in a conscious relationship, like what conscious means is we're choosing to become aware, we're choosing to wake up and be, you know, and have awareness around certain things versus being asleep, right? Versus being zombies. So know that even with the choice to be in a conscious relationship, it doesn't mean that we don't have moments where we are asleep. Like literally, my partner will sometimes, like, I'll be asleep and I'll be like unconscious and kind of reacting, and my partner will be like, "What do you tell your girls?" Because, you know, we're a relationship coach. I'm like, "Shut up!" Shut up. Oh, like, okay. So then I have to think about what I would tell them, and I'm like, Nike. As Anya says, shiitake. Anya doesn't swear, you guys. So Drew's on here. Hi, honey. I was just talking about you and how you get me with your questions. So in terms of like falling into the role, so number one, it's going to be having the awareness of the pattern, right? So really knowing your cues, like knowing, okay, when I do this, in the masculine likes to like take over, right? Or assert. So knowing the cues of when you're doing that, because that's going to be so helpful. So you can catch yourself in the relationship, and then you can catch yourself, meaning interrupt those patterns and then shift. And my favorite analogy ever of the masculine role is the volleyball analogy. And I told you this one, right? All right, Chelsea's walking by. I'm all excited to see her. So you do have Insta. Yeah. So the volleyball analogy is, well, okay, babe. She says my partner, LOL. Okay, my amazing man, Drew. So the volleyball analogy is, and this relates to the masculine energy, is if you are choosing to always be in your masculine, when you're playing volleyball, it's like, think about it. If you have the person that sets it, and then you have the person that hits it over, and you're doing both. You're setting it and you're hitting it over. What's your partner going to do? Your partner is just going to step back and be like, she's got it. Because you're literally, that's what happens in sports, because you're like, I can't set, there's no room, right? So the cool thing about that is when I share that, it's also anchoring yourself in the value of what happens when I step back. What happens when I create room, and really looking at what opens up when you allow yourself to come into your feminine energy, and know that it's, the cool thing is it doesn't have to be something that you do all the time, but when you start, all of a sudden you're gonna love it so much, and you're gonna like, oh my gosh, this is so fun, this is amazing. So you never want to go back. So giving yourself permission to kind of play with it and know that it will grow, and that could and also inside the course we have a whole process, module 7 exactly on this. It's literally going to take you through the exact reasons why you're not, what has you not be in your feminine, and it's going to support you it's going to support you in stepping into your feminine, right? Which is your playful, everything Anya talks about too, right? Your playful, creative energy, and how that also impacts the dynamic of a relationship. So I hope that helps you, Andrea. And yeah, number one thing, you're just being aware of your cues and then choosing to shift them, and then watching how that impacts the relationship will make it easier and easier and easier. Because right now it's just theory, what I'm telling you. And as you apply it, it becomes a realization, and it's that much more powerful. So my biggest invitation is to really apply this.
Okay, so I lied. I'm never going to say something on this question. Okay. So one more thing on just forgiving yourself. I hit this point about 5 months ago, where I was beating myself up over and over again because I was struggling with anxiety so much. And I was like, what the actual F?
She's 4. I'm just joking. Literally 4.
But I didn't say it. I just said it. Because I was, I'm like, a lot of what I do with women is work with frequencies, the elevated feminine frequencies. And so I have this definition of the elevated woman, and she's elegant, empowered, beautiful, serene, intelligent, and spiritual, and connected, warm, loving, all these things. And I was like, okay, I've been stepping into these energies because this is really just me and my highest self, But then I was having these experiences of anxiety, specifically around relationship, and I was rejecting them. basically I was like, I don't want these experiences to like what, I was just rejecting them so much. And I realized that there were other frequencies, other feminine frequencies that I wasn't working with. I wasn't embracing and practicing. And those energies are these divine feminine energies of patience, acceptance, understanding, compassion, grace, trust, and that all of these energies are beautiful and empowered divine feminine energies. And I want to be that. That's what when I envision myself in my highest power in this life, it's to be this beautiful embodiment of my divine femininity, And yet I wasn't giving myself these energies. I was not even being patient with myself. And the moment I started to be patient, with this anxiety and accept it, and be more understanding, because that's what I would want to give my child. That's what I want to give. When I think of motherhood, it's like, I want to be all those energies. I don't want to be impatient and unaccepting and, disapproving of vulnerability. It's like you embrace it and you hold patience. So that really, really helped me with some of the self beat up that I was experiencing. And you can kind of collapse time in that way and instantly step into your highest self without having to like go anywhere. You really bring her into this moment and reveal her right now. So
I think they dropped the mic moment.
Well, what I really did though is because of what I was saying, like because of the energy that it really meant, my energy had to shift. And in what I just did, it was like my actual energy had to shift. And so everyone's experience actually shifted. And that's one of the powers of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, really. But we are, so often it's like less of what's being said and more of what energy is coded inside of it. And that's one of these kind of secret wisdom that you can receive, is like when you're on a date or when you're talking with someone, when you're making love, it's like there's more than just what's being said and what's being done. When you connect and it's like this wave, it's like behind you there's a force field of energy. It's unseen, but that's really what's being experienced, is like, some of those things. So anyway, I just wanted to be transparent about what you might be experiencing. Like the mic drop moment is only, we all have that. We can all do that when we bring our energy to a certain frequency, like you do it. We do it when we shift our frequency. So do you want to answer that last question? Can you talk more about our feminine sexual energy and how to protect it? And is it important to keep it sacred and just for a committed relationship? Does it give our power away if it's casual sex? I have a lot to say on this topic. A lot to say. And I know Rebecca does too. And then this will be the last question. So if this is the first time to my channel, make sure to subscribe. Also, in one of the comments above, Rebecca has shared her really beautiful course, Attract Your Evolved Man. And I'm really excited to share that on my channel because I know it's amazing content. So we could go on forever. This is its own YouTube video. But what I want to say right now is there's a lot of, as humans, we have both conscious mind and subconscious mind. The conscious mind is connected to the masculine. The subconscious is connected to the feminine. The subconscious is there's no filter. The subconscious is this trusting, open, receptive, warm, fertile soil that whatever is planted into it, it will grow. So if poisonous trees are planted into it, it will grow. It doesn't matter that it's poison. The soil is so powerful, it will grow anything. What the danger of social media and a lot of what we've been receiving is there's poisonous programming that has been taken in by a lot of us, a lot of women, men, everyone. We've been coded and seeded with information that is poison us to our hearts and to our soul. And definitely very, very dangerous for the feminine and for feminine energy. And if you've noticed recently on like TikTok and Instagram, there's a lot, it's just become so rampant, and it's not bad, but so much of the programming is around revealing the feminine body, revealing the female body. It's just becoming more and more and more and more revealing. It's not bad. It does, you know, the more pure your intention is, the better. But what's important about this is the fact that it's when we see something over and over again, it becomes normal, becomes normalized. But there's a power in containment and concealing and not revealing. There's a power. It creates a potency. And when, you know, we are really the only ones that we are really the only ones that can be responsible for this. So if you feel, I've just wrote this recently on my Instagram, that if you feel like you go out into the world and there are men that you're getting attention from that you don't want, I would actually look in at your own aura and your own field and see if there's an unconscious openness that you're holding, like an unconscious open sexual energy where you're actually leaking your sexual energy. And that's something that has nothing to do with anyone around you and the dangers of those people, and more to do with your next level of maturity, this mature feminine that's completely like very rare these days because of the programming we've been receiving, which is younger and younger girls are getting more and more sexualized. So how we receive that too is my value is in my youth. My beauty and value is in like the younger I am. And so we're unconsciously programmed out of that mature feminine. The evolved masculine will be repelled and grossed out on an unconscious level to those frequencies in a woman. So I would say the answer to this question is really, it's like, what frequency do you want to attract, and what do you want to experience? Because I would code yourself and your aura with those frequencies. If you want a man who, you know, it just depends. It's like, and whatever you let in, you become. Whatever you eat, whatever you let into your body, you are taking on that person's energy. It just is the way it is. You can't get around it. So it's like, I think it's really a question of going to this next level of self-love and honor and asking ourselves, what do I really deserve? You know, what am I worth? And you're worth the highest. Like we said, it's like we are all the divine energy. And so,
beautiful.
You want to share anything on that?
Yeah, I think you covered a lot, and I can just sense the heart and the passion that Anya has on this topic. So make sure that you go follow. They're asking for your handle. It's
at Elevated Woman Training.
Yeah, at Elevated Woman Training, and you can feel the heart and I
care a lot about this.
Yeah, you can feel her just like pin up the like almost the like fierceness, right? I can feel it. I can feel it. This fierce mama like energy, which is we need that. We need that right now, and Sammy had asked, and is it important? So I'll just share what I've shared in a lot of the videos on Instagram, and you know, you're asking, does it give our power away? And I think kind of where Anya ended up with is, what is it that I want? Like, what's really important to me? And I know a lot of people on my channel are desiring a committed, conscious partnership, like a beautiful relationship. And what I always say is that the moment we are sexual, right? The moment we have sex, there are chemicals that are released, oxytocin, right? And the bonding agent that we don't have control over. And literally, you guys know it. If you've done it, it's like taking a drug, and all of a sudden you're like, you want this person to be to you, right? So what happens, Sammy, is then you stop seeing that person objectively, because there's all these hormones going off that are like, I need that protector or provider, like the one, right? We call it multiple things, so one-itis. So if you're desiring a relationship where you get to know each other on so many different levels, then it's really valuable to decide to wait to have sex until you are in a committed relationship. And the other reason that this is so important is, right, if you, as a man, I'm trying to get rid of this, as a man, his first thing is physical, then it's emotional, then it's mental, then it's soulmates. Okay. So, and think about the chakras or the energy centers. Physical, you're going up like this, and as a man's ascending, right, father sky, the energy is going up. So it goes physical, right, then emotional, mental, and then soul, right. For a woman, right, what's happening is it's actually it's mental. It's actually mental, emotional, then physical, right, and then soul, right? Because we're Mother Earth, the energy is going down. So know that as a man, he's actually in his lowest level of discernment when he's looking for the physical. So his biology is like, let me sleep. I'm physically attracted to this girl. I want to be close to her physically. And then he could sleep with a woman, but not actually know her mentally and emotionally, and he may not be in love with her. But as a woman, since we're mental, emotional, physical, we think, oh my gosh, since he's coming towards me, that means he's in love with me, wants to get to know me, wants to be with me, because we can sometimes think that he's a woman, right? A hairy woman in the house. So I think having that awareness is really valuable, and just to set yourself up for success, it's really knowing, okay, this is what I want, this is what I desire, and not that there's one formula that fits all, and one thing that I know works really well is choosing to get to know a man objectively, right? Choosing to really get to know him emotionally, mentally, on all these different levels prior to moving into the physical will set you up to win in the long run. And that's why women say, when they get into bad relationships, they're like, I feel like I just wasn't even thinking, how did I get here? It's like, girl, you weren't, because you slept with him too soon, and you weren't really thinking, right? Because the hormones were thinking for you. So I hope that makes a difference. Oh, Diane, send my angels. Oh. So I hope that answered your question, helps. And yes, you guys click, Elevated Woman Training. Lisa's on here. Hi, honey. And then Sammy said, beautiful message. Love you so much. Oh, well, amazing. Should we say goodbye now?
Chelsea.
Oh, Chelsea gonna come in?
Yeah. And one thing I want to say really quick, just like I always like to say this, like on these videos, we've gone on a journey together. We've hit lots of different energies.
Guys.
This is Chelsea.
Hi. Some people might know me here.
Yeah, Chelsea Rose. She's been on Helena's channel a lot recently.
Oh my God, this is such a cute background.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
We're having a girls' week here.
Yeah.
It's really fun. But, we get to, like, you guys you've had the opportunity, like, we've all hit lots of different frequencies to hear. We've hit lots of different frequencies together. Like, we've gone on a journey, and we've gone deep. We've been in play. We've had fun. We've like activated passion and power, and like all of that is the feminine, and that's a lot of what we provide men in partnership, is just this like spontaneous, dynamic flow of depth and lightness and love and anger. And for them, like this single pointed, focused like power, like that's really important. So it's we get to love them for them and love us for us.
Yeah.
Because they're not meant to be the same. And I think the more we accept, our superpowers. So
Yes.
this is Chelsea. We love her.
I'm so honored to be called in here.
So everyone's loving me.
Hey guys, I know you too. Is this your Instagram?
Yeah. So I don't really want to get off, but I guess we need to.
I love you.
So check out Rebecca's link for Attract Your Evolved Man, and we'll do more videos in the future. And if there's anything that you want specifically on topics, then there's a link. Then share in the comments whether you're watching live or on the replay, and maybe we'll go live again together. We will. We're gonna go on a hike now. From the top of Mount Tam down to Stinson Beach.
Do you want to meet us?
Just kidding. love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yes, that is Chelsea. All right. See you guys soon.
Wow, is that